good to have you with us in this edition of the Urban Debate, and we continue with our relentless focus on COVID and India's battle against COVID. Tonight, viewers, I am going to start off with the big question. Is India looking at a higher death rate, at a higher fatality count, largely because of the weak, abysmal healthcare infrastructure that we have? Is it that now the number of high deaths that we are looking at are not really all about COVID, but because we're not able to save these COVID patients on time? And that's the question I'm going to ask this evening. Let me give you a few examples of what's really going on in our country. Example number one has come from Supaul in Bihar, where a patient succumbed to COVID outside the hospital while waiting for somebody to take him in. Patient was waiting outside, hoping for admission, but before that could happen, it was too late. The relatives also claim that the patient was left unattended outside the hospital. This is just one of the many cases. It's an example of what is going on in many parts of our country, especially outside the big cities. Let me give you another example. This is one from Deoria in Uttar Pradesh. There have been over a dozen COVID deaths in a week where the villagers are claiming acute shortage of oxygen. Now, as has now been the case in many other examples, the authorities say no such thing has happened, that these patients were critical any which ways, and it isn't because of lack of oxygen. The villagers have emphasized on the fact that there was no oxygen, no proper healthcare infrastructure available, and frankly, in small little towns and villages, it's not surprising where half the secondary healthcare centers barely function. There is not enough staff in your primary healthcare centers, and when COVID is hitting you in a big manner, there is massive chaos on ground. I'll give you another example of the bad healthcare infrastructure. In Bihar, in one place, a patient was brought in on a wheelbarrow because that is all that was available to bring the patient to the hospital. It's not just us who are bringing you stories from across the country that show the pathetic state of affairs and that show that there are now more people dying because we're not able to give them proper access on time. Things have become so serious that even elected legislators and parliamentarians are now beginning to speak up about this. Santosh Gangwar, who is a union minister, spoke out about the state of affairs in his constituency, Bareilly, saying calls are going unanswered in Bareilly. Oxygen is being sold at higher prices. Oxygen is being sold at higher prices because it is in great demand and in short supply. He wasn't the only one. Satyadev Pachauri, BJP MP from Kanpur, raised this issue and said patients are not getting timely treatment. Many are dying in ambulances. We had the example of a BJP MLA who himself said that his wife couldn't get in bed in the hospital, that she was actually on the floor being treated there, and that's how bad the state of affairs is. He himself couldn't arrange for anything. While the hospital denies this kind of allegations, these are now elected members of our assemblies and parliament who are raising this issue. I don't even want to talk about any international studies and the kind of estimates they may be making. A huge amount of debate has really happened about a study quoted by the Lancet Commission in its recent editorial saying that India could see 10 lakh deaths by August. But viewers, in the month of April, only the documented one, which barely factor in what happens in rural part of our country, only that data showed 50,000 deaths in the month of April due to COVID. This doesn't even factor in the mismatch that happens in big cities where half the numbers are not getting registered because these deaths are not happening due to COVID in hospitals. Now this month we are clocking 4,000 deaths every day. 4,000 deaths every day. At this pace, we are going to see a large amount of deaths just in the month of April. Think about that. That's the reality of our country. Is it to say that COVID has suddenly become more fatal? Or is it that because of our ignored over decades healthcare infrastructure, we are now losing many more lives than what COVID could have done to us? Let's say good evening to the panelists who are joining us on this conversation. Yamini Iyer, President and Chief Executive of the Center for Policy Research, Dr. Rajiv Dasgupta, Chairperson for Center for Social Medicine and Community Health at JNU, member of the National AEFI Committee, which is the Adverse Effects Following Immunization, Charu Pragya of the BJP, Dr. Ajay Kumar of the Congress Party, Mr. Sudhir Mishra, Resident Editor of Navbharat Times, also joining us this evening. Let me start off with Yamini Iyer to give a basic sense, and then we'll also go across to Dr. Dasgupta. But would this be, in your expertise, in the studies that your center may have done, what does it look like could be the actual fatality or loss that we see due to COVID in our country?
So it's very difficult to say. I am not an epidemiological modeler myself, and so I don't necessarily have any data of my own. But what I can certainly say is that we know for a fact that India's health system has always struggled with accurately reporting death. This isn't new. This is not political. It is a challenge that our health system has faced for many decades. And it's also important to remember that our health system has and continues to be extremely weak and broken owing to decades of low levels of public expenditure. The bulk of expenditure on health in India happens out of pocket, and it is the single most critical reason for falling back into poverty. It's against this backdrop that the question of accuracy of death data has come up in the context of COVID. We knew even last year, at this point in time last year, that given the fragility of our system's capability of effective registration of death, we will have a large number of unreported deaths for COVID. We had the better part of 1 year to fix our data systems. India is an IT-enabled, sophisticated state. Every single level of government boasts of its management information systems. It is quite appalling that even in this year, with all the experience and knowledge of what a pandemic could potentially do, we did not do the one most basic thing: fix the system's ability to effectively register death. So as of now, the reported numbers are what they are, but they in no measure, even in the best of times, give us an accurate understanding of what overall death rates are. And that's the context in which the debate on accuracy of data is coming on board. I'll say one more thing. The only way to fight a pandemic is to acknowledge its reality and understand it. That requires us to be completely transparent about data, recognizing and being open about the flaws in our data system, being willing to crowdsource data, because if the data system is weak, to better understand what the reality on the ground is, rather than try to control narratives that, frankly, reality will never allow you to control.
Yes. Okay. So fair enough. And thanks for setting this entire thing in context. And of course, now we aren't the experts to talk about the virality of the infection, but we do know what's happening on ground. We do know what is the state of healthcare infrastructure, and like you said very correctly, Yamini, it's not about right now. It's not even a political point. It's how successively for decades our governments have ignored healthcare infrastructure. Could we have done some amount of damage control of that in the last 1 year, prepared something new, knowing that we are in a pandemic that will not go away very quickly? That becomes the big question. Before I go to that, Dr. Rajiv Dasgupta, the Lancet editorial, which actually quotes a different study, and this is the study by the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation, estimating that there may be 1 million deaths in our country by August. That being said, the Lancet editorial actually says that the change can only happen and India can only get a grip on this by first acknowledging the gravity of the situation. Do you believe that somewhere we are in denial of just the extent of the problem across our country?
That's indeed true. And if we see the mortality count issues of the last year, which is the first wave, uh, many states had undercounts. Some states actually then, first it set up expert committees to vet the cause of death, which is quite unnecessary. The treating physician or the treating institution should have the final word. There's nothing to move to an expert committee whether it's a COVID death or not, because what is a COVID death was very clearly articulated by the WHO in its April 2020 document at the beginning of the pandemic. And that's pretty simple and straightforward. So the states first set up, many states first set up these expert committees to vet whether a death is COVID death or not. And then they set up several months later another expert committee, or maybe even the same one, I can't say, but again to reconcile these figures and coming up with a higher set of figure. So that's one problem, that what counts as a COVID death is quite clear, yet the health authorities choose to take, well, at least different, if not ambiguous positions on that. And secondly, the benchmark of mortality is a case fatality rate is of 4%, going by the CDC's very large pooled data experience. So this 4%, when you actually see at the district level, which is the unit to look at, the country is too big, and with infections, with cumulative cases, the case fatality rate will always look relatively lower. There are nuances in it, but even at the district level, high incidence districts through the last pandemic had the death rate around 4, and for some periods, some of these districts actually even touched or crossed 5 for some brief periods. So death rates have indeed been high in the high incidence districts if you look for it. The point is that, are we really looking for it?
Are we really looking for it? Okay, Charu Pragya, you've heard two of our experts, your response to this fact that, what is now being said, that we need to first look at what the reality is for us to only then mount a comprehensive response.
Tanvi, I've always maintained this. If we cannot identify the problems in our system, we'll never be able to fix it. And I say this being completely pragmatic and completely backing the government which is running India today. See, we have to understand that because we are a developing country, over previous years, we have not given a lot of attention to health infrastructure. A very small part of our budget has been allocated for health, and that's a reality, and none of us can run away from it. But this pandemic has opened our eyes, and it has told us that if we want to really look after our people, if we want to become a welfare state in the times to come, we need to spend more money on the health infrastructure. We need to pay more attention to the health and sanitation of people living in rural India. And we have started doing that. So schemes like Ayushman Bharat, schemes like Indradhanush, schemes which are aimed at making sure the last mile person gets medical attention are helping people. But of course, we have been hit in an unexpected way with this pandemic, and we have to kind of course correct right now. So when you look at the way the budget allocation happened during UPA, and then the way it started happening in NDA with Modi ji leading it, that has changed largely, and we have done a big leap when it comes to the kind of money we are spending. But compared to the developed nations, compared to the Western nations, we need to spend a larger chunk of this infrastructure on health. That is true. But when we talk of increasing AIIMS in the country, we've started working on that. We used to have 6 AIIMS. Now we're working on making 22 more. The medical colleges are increasing. 157 new medical colleges have started with construction. Some of them are operational very soon. That's going to go a long way in helping us, because, it's not just about talking about beds. It's not just discussing medication or oxygen. It's also about seeing how many doctors we have at the front of this fight against COVID. Every single time a doctor is hit with an illness, if a doctor is taking some time off, taking those 2 weeks off to quarantine himself because he's got COVID himself, do we have a second line of doctors to replace this? And that has been a critical problem. I know in Delhi it's been a critical problem because I think Delhi must be functioning on 60% of its doctor capacity. 40% are either recuperating or they are not well enough to come to hospital. Some of them are working over the phone. So all of this has to be addressed when we talk of health infrastructure. Hospitals need to increase, definitely. The kind of money we are spending on it, definitely. But medical colleges also need to increase. We have to spend more money on R&D. R&D has never been a forte of our country, but we have seen in the last 7 years, and I say this with a lot of pride and confidence, Modi government has allocated more and more money for R&D.
Charu, all that you're saying, Charu, are all the right things that must be said when we talk about long-term action, and some of which, like you pointed out, the government has taken in terms of setting in more institutes. It's obviously not a problem that goes away overnight. The point that we are making today, which is twofold. One is what steps were taken to deal with a pandemic-like situation in terms of healthcare infrastructure in the last 1 year. For examples, every day we're now finding more and more instances of thousands of ventilators lying unused, forgotten, or we've not managed to train the staff, but they're lying unused. We've now found examples again in multiple parts where ambulances have been bought using MP-led funds or otherwise being donated and are lying unused. We have examples of how the critical healthcare infra is being used for different purposes than saving lives. So the point is, did we do anything about it in the last 1 year? The second aspect is, are we even admitting what is the reality today? If at the current rate of 4,000 deaths per day, we're going to be looking at 1,20,000 deaths in a month. And this is not even the true picture going by any number of indicators that we're looking at. When will we first admit this problem before we fix it in terms of how the pandemic is affecting us? That's the question, Charu.
Yeah, Tanvi, and I understand there has to be a two-pronged approach. One has to be long-term and one has to be immediate. So when it comes to the immediate approach the government has taken, well, we have made indigenous vaccine in India. DRDO came up with a new drug yesterday, which will go a long way in fighting people who are battling critical COVID. Apart from that, we are already spending a large amount of money, whether it is through PM CARES or otherwise, in setting up oxygen plants, in making sure more and more ventilators are bought, more institutions are being set up to take care of COVID patients. But I am in agreement with you, Tanvi, and I don't want to mince my words because this is not a time to get into a political tutu-meme when it comes to things like this. When I see pictures of ventilators covered with these bed sheets, lying unused, dusty, it's heart-wrenching really, because here we are running pillar to post to find one ventilator and we have 100 patients waiting for it. So this is something, this consciousness is something which needs to come in everyone, and I hope this is a time in the country where everyone is jolted into action, when they realize that just having good intentions is not enough. You have to work on ground as well.
Yes, look at the ground reality now today, Ajay Kumar, and that is what is affecting us. People are gasping for oxygen. People are struggling for a ventilator. People are struggling for a hospital bed. MLAs and MPs have now begun to raise this issue because it's now hitting home. Their own relatives are in trouble. That's why they're not able to do anything about it. Their constituency people have begun to express anger in the most vociferous terms, which is why this is being acknowledged. Yet, on ground, every time a story of deaths due to oxygen shortage comes, there is an immediate denial from some hospitals saying there was no shortage, patients were critical. If we don't admit what the reality is, how will we fix it?
Look, Tanvi, firstly, whenever I've been on a TV show with the Bharatiya Janata Party, what amazes me is that either they're totally out of reality and they don't know what's happening around them, and then they go on this regular spiel of how great Modi ji is and what is he doing. Look at the tragedy. First of all, let's start with the data. India averages 30,000 deaths per day. The crematoriums and the cemeteries are overflowing, so it has to be somewhere whether it is 60,000 or 70,000 is a number, but we need to look at that. So those numbers are not available. So let's imagine on death figures, we are fudging, we are lying, we are threatening the lab. Second issue, 18 to 44 years of children, people between 18 to 45, you have only vaccinated 2 lakhs today. You have infection of you have an infection touching nearly 4 lakhs. One sec, let me complete. The job of this government was oxygen, remdesivir, ventilator, basic things which this government had to do. It's not 20 years of infrastructure. With oxygen availability, central government not distributing it. Vaccination, the most foolish vaccination policy in the world. Third, research. Our government and the Prime Minister, we have the audacity to tell the WTO that you must give the license to produce vaccines across the world, and you're not doing it for Bharat Biotech. Look at the double standard of this government. The lies continuously on the we are doing a good job. Remdesivir is centralized. Ventilators, they gave it to their friends to manufacture, which is not working. Now you keep saying people social distancing. How can you do social distancing when the Prime Minister and the Home Minister gave a statement in Bengal that why is it happening in Maharashtra? Then you communalize the virus. Last year you said that the Tablighi Jamaat was involved. Now 91 lakhs took bath in Kumbh Mela. Vidisha had 61 people coming in from Kumbh Mela. 60 had the virus. So let us tell, and which country in the world has an NSA against people complaining? That is Uttar Pradesh and Yogi Adityanath. You will be charged under National Security Act if you say there is no oxygen. What kind of country this is? I mean, we are absolutely becoming a laughing stock. Not only laughing stock, and the ball is in the central government and the stupidity, the monumental stupidity of this government.
But you must admit, Dr. Ajay Kumar, that while a large part of the data admission and preparation has to come from the center and the BJP governed states, this is also a state subject. And most of the states, barring a couple maybe, did not do anything either for the last 1 year, Ajay Kumar. So we can't just put the blame on the BJP. None of the Congress governed states either prepared, or it's not as if they are not facing oxygen shortage today.
No, one second. The question again is, you've centralized the oxygen. Let's go by data. The oxygen distribution was centralized. Let's go by data that the remdesivir distribution was centralized.
The shortage is happening because none of the states worked on oxygen generation.
The oxygen generation, let's look at the second story. 160 hospitals were supposed to get oxygen plants. The tender was given in October 2020. This is criminal. And then how many hospitals have oxygen? 33 hospitals have oxygen. And then they say 160 will have this hoga, hone wala hai, karenge, kar lenge. And if sab cheez fail hai, to public ki dosh hai. Aap mask nahi pehante. No, the question, Tanvi, is the world is reporting on it. And we can't tell them the truth. You tell me which chief minister has the audacity to file a child on Twitter, ask for oxygen, and you file an FIR against him?
Wonderful.
You are covering the death rates, you are challenging the labs, and we need to call them out. Okay, they will be. And I agree with you totally. Where the states which are not doing it, shame on them, and they must report. But the oxygen, vaccine, remdesivir, centralized. And you have a health minister you never see. You are Prime Minister, none of the empowered committees had a meeting. And I want you to please ask the BJP, why did the tender of the oxygen come only in October 2020?
Yeah.
And only 33 hospitals have their oxygen plant?
Well, before I go across to Sudhir Mishra, let me ask Charu Pragya to respond to this. Yes, Charu.
The opposition is doing exactly what they're doing on your debate, Tanvi. You heard me. I'm trying to be constructive here. I'm trying to see what better we can do in the world. All the opposition wants to do is point fingers. Sir, you forget when you point one finger at us, 4 are pointing at you. Please pay attention to those 4 fingers as well. Secondly, 50% of the vaccination the center is acquiring. What about the other 50%? If you are so proactive, how much of vaccination have you acquired for your particular states? Can you give me that? In any case, the top states to have received maximum number of vaccines from the center happen to be Congress-ruled states. If you want to talk about mismanagement, sir, I can go on and on, and I can give you a long list, but let me just one for now. Town hall restaurant in Khan Market in Delhi was hoarding oxygen concentrators. Who is helping the owners of these restaurants? Want me to open my mouth? I will do
Gautam
that.
Gambhir, Gautam Gambhir and his friends and the BJP friends. So you want us to open our mouth?
Politics is
Come
going
on,
to
man,
remain.
don't get into this nonsense, Mr. Pragya. Please, I mean, this nonsense about.
Okay,
No,
okay,
no, first
okay,
of all,
okay,
talk
okay,
on
okay.
sense.
Please, let's not. If nobody wants to admit the reality here, let's not go on to conjectures and conspiracy theories until you have facts to prove. And please hand over those facts to the investigators to look at as to what was happening in that case. It is shocking that such kind of black marketing and hoarding was going on in the heart of the national capital. It's for the investigators to find out what happened there. Now, Dr. Ajay Kumar, please allow me to bring in Mr. Sudhir Mishra as well, resident editor of Navbar Times, joining us right now. Mr. Mishra, I want to ask you this simple question. We've spoken about it a lot of times. जो ग्राउंड रियलिटी है, जो स्टोरीज आ रही हैं, उससे क्या इंडिकेशन मिल रहा है कि ऑफिशियल डेटा और जो ग्राउंड रियलिटी है उसमें कितना अंतर है, कितना डिफरेंस है? एक बड़ी कंट्रोवर्सी अब ये भी हो गई है कि जो स्टोरीज हमारे पास आई यमुना में और गंगा में कोविड बॉडीज बहुत बड़े नंबर पे अब मिल रही हैं, ये इसको लेके भी एक बड़ा सवाल उठ रहा है. तो व्हाट इज योर एक्सपर्ट ओपिनियन and the information that you have covered for your paper as to what the ground reality is and how disconnected it is with the actual statistics?
देखिए, अगर हम गांवों की बात करें तो गांवों में जांच का वैसा सिस्टम नहीं बन पाया जैसा कि शहरों में होता है. और शहरों की भी बात करें तो मैं लखनऊ की बात करूं तो RT-PCR जांच होने में 4-4, 5-5 दिन लग रहे थे. प्राइवेट लैब्स कर नहीं रही थी, तो बहुत दिक्कतें थी. पिछले 20 दिन पहले की अगर हम बात करें, और जो डेटा का फर्क है वो बहुत बड़ा गैप है, जो गवर्नमेंट का डेटा है और जो रियल डेटा है. मैंने कई दिन बीच में देखा कि 10 गुने का फर्क था. जो मॉर्टेलिटी जो हम लोग शमशान घाटों पे देख रहे थे और जो डेटा में आ रहा था वो उसमें बहुत बहुत बड़ा अंतर था. तो और मुझे बड़ा अफसोस होता है ये देखकर कि जो संक्रमण है और जो मौतें हैं उनके आंकड़ों को जाने क्यों छुपाया जा रहा है. दूसरे स्टेट्स में भी हो रहा है, यहाँ पे भी हो रहा है. जो है उनको एक्सेप्ट क्यों नहीं कर रहे हैं, जांचें ज्यादा से ज्यादा क्यों नहीं करा रहे हैं, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट ट्रेसिंग ज्यादा से ज्यादा क्यों नहीं हो रही है. ये सच है कि जो इन्फेक्शन रेट है वो इतना ज्यादा है, मतलब जो हुआ 15-20 दिन पहले से जो शुरू हुआ वो 30 गुना ज्यादा संक्रामक था. ये बात गवर्नमेंट भी कह रही है. जब ये बात कह रही है तो आंकड़ों को स्वीकार करने में क्या दिक्कत है कि आंकड़े हमारे बहुत ज्यादा हैं और वो जो डेथ हुई है वो भी बहुत ज्यादा है. अगर आज की तारीख में आप 100 को अगर 1000 मरे और 100 आपने बोला तो जो 900 लोग हैं वो मतलब इसका पॉलिटिकल असर भी होगा. जो 900 लोग और मरे हैं वो तो बहुत नाराज होंगे ना. उनका जो उनके घर का सदस्य जो भी गया है उसकी गिनती भी नहीं हो रही है कि वो कोविड की वजह से मरा है या कोविड की वजह से जो लापरवाहियां हुई, ऑक्सीजन नहीं मिली, नॉन कोविड जो एडमिट नहीं किया जा सके हॉस्पिटल्स में, उसकी वजह से उसको मरना पड़ा. इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की बात हो रही थी. इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर मैं 25-30 सालों से देख रहा हूँ और डॉक्टरों से बहुत माफी के साथ कहूंगा कि जो डॉक्टर हैं बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं, कोई शक नहीं इस बात में. लेकिन जो हमारा ग्रामीण इलाके हैं, जो सामुदायिक स्वास्थ्य केंद्र हैं, जो स्वास्थ्य केंद्र हैं, मुझे लगता है कि बड़ी संख्या में डॉक्टर वहां नहीं जाते हैं और एक करप्ट नेटवर्क होता है CMO ऑफिस और डॉक्टरों के बीच में कि वो 1 दिन या 2 दिन जाते हैं और बाकी दिन वहां जाते ही नहीं है. इसकी वजह से पूरा जो झोला छाप डॉक्टर है उनका सिस्टम गांवों में काम करता है. वो 10 को सही करते हैं, 10 को मारते हैं. तो ये जो सिस्टम है उत्तर प्रदेश में बहुत समय से चल रहा है, जो हमारा माइक्रो लेवल का हेल्थ सिस्टम है या हम उसको एजुकेशन में भी कहते हैं. और जो विधायक और सांसद और मंत्री लोग अभी जो चिल्ला रहे हैं और जो चिट्ठियां लिख रहे हैं, ये इनको सबको पता था. ग्राम प्रधानों को भी पता होता है कि क्या होता है, लेकिन वो भी 10 लाख रुपया और एक स्कॉर्पियो लेने के चक्कर में रहते हैं. मतलब जो बेसिक डेवलपमेंट होना चाहिए ग्रामीण इलाकों में, कस्बाई लेवल पे, स्वास्थ्य का, शिक्षा का, उस पर तो बरसों से काम नहीं हुआ. और जो करप्ट पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम है, करप्ट ब्यूरोक्रेटिक सिस्टम है, वो लगातार वही कर रहा है. जो मतलब उसमें थोड़ा बहुत अगर कुछ बदलाव आया हो तो आया हो. और जो महामारी है जिसके मद्देनजर हमारी तैयारियां बहुत बड़ी होनी चाहिए थी, और मुझे समझ में नहीं आता कि जो ब्यूरोक्रेट्स की हाई लेवल की कमेटियां होती हैं वो करती क्या है. एक तो वो जनप्रतिनिधियों से बात नहीं करती. जो विधायक है, मंत्री है, उनके पास सीधा फीडबैक आता है. उनके बीच में और जो ब्यूरोक्रेट्स हैं बहुत बड़ा गैप है. और जो एक्सपर्ट हैं, जो महामारी के एक्सपर्ट हैं और जो डॉक्टर्स हैं, उनको भी साइड लाइन किया हुआ है. तो उसी वजह से मुझे लग रहा है कि जो तैयारियों का जो स्तर बनना चाहिए था पिछले 1.5 साल के भीतर, वो नहीं बन पाया और उसका खामियाजा सैकड़ों की संख्या में लोगों को जान देके गंवाना पड़ा है। और ये एक बहुत बड़ी त्रासदी है और ये एक बहुत बड़ी
Yeah.
गलती है।
ये आपने जो एक बात उठाई गवर्नमेंट मशीनरी की और ब्यूरोक्रेट्स की, मुझे इस पे भी थोड़ी सी सवाल पूछने हैं, बट बिफोर दैट डॉक्टर राजीव दास गुप्ता, यू नो अगेन टू योर माइंड, वुड वी हैव seen far fewer and how much fewer deaths if we had managed to prepare better healthcare infra? Like I was saying, there are now cases emerging where people have died due to lack of oxygen. People have died due to lack of an IC or a ventilator bed, or because of a denial of admission in a hospital because there is obviously no space. It's not the hospital that the hospital may intentionally be saying no, but these deaths are often dismissed due to shortage by the hospital administration itself, saying no, there was no shortage, no, they didn't come to us, no, we had enough oxygen. Just how different could reality have been had we prepared better?
Okay, the first reality check comes from what Sudhir said, and we know he's a very grounded person. He is in complete touch with what's happening in the front lines. Now the point here is this, and this is particularly about mortality and why the health services are being overwhelmed, is pretty straightforward, and it's the answer is purely statistical, which is as follows. The second wave is driven by new variants, both the UK variant and the B1617 variant, plus a few others, but at least these two majorly, beginning with Punjab and Maharashtra, where these variants are 30 to 50% more transmissible, but not more fatal. Now we have heard so some of the government spokespersons actually finding for comfort in this, that this is not more fatal. But what happens is when it is 50% more transmissible, it produces number of illnesses at a phenomenally higher rate, so that even with the same fatality rate, you end up with almost 8 to 8.5 times total mortality. This is something to be understood. I can't explain in greater detail for lack of time, but this is what essentially happens, and this is how it gets overwhelmed. And this is known, this is pretty basic infectious diseases epidemiology. This is basic. And therefore, the planning really has
So
to
would
build
this
up
not
on
have
this
been
understanding.
told to the government, Dr. Rajiv Das Gupta? Every time we talk about policy and preparation, the answer that we get is, well, nobody could have seen that this wave would be so big, and that we always thought that the mortality rate is lower. But any expert would, like you are saying, say that as viruses evolve, they become more transmissible, they infect more people on a faster basis, then it could lead to an overwhelming of the infrastructure, which would then effectively lead to higher deaths.
And if you see, even the recently released rural health services, this is despite the flagship programs of National Rural Health Mission, National Health Mission, etc. Since 2005, which is 15 years now, despite these 1.5 decades of investment in rural health services, and there has been investment, there's nothing to deny it, and despite all this strengthening, the human resource situation in the rural health context has simply not improved to any appreciable extent. And if, and I say this with a if, these deaths, the dead bodies today in Ganga and Yamuna, if they are indeed COVID deaths, I'm sorry for the pun, completely unintended. Today is a watershed day in this COVID saga in the country, if these dead bodies are indeed COVID related.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and it's truly heart-wrenching to even see those visuals. And of course, as a part of the tradition is, and some people do to carry out the final rites by putting the bodies in these holy rivers. but at the scale at which it is happening just goes on to show the number of lives that are being lost here. Yamini, and I come back to you on this again, because this is about policy making. And if it seems that we may have gotten a bit of that wrong in the past 1 year. If we are being told today that we never thought the second wave would be this big, either we didn't listen to the experts, or just we just didn't think it was important enough.
So I think a few things. Policy making for health has always been flawed. If you look back over the last decade and plus, we've had numerous committees set up by different governments committing to the idea of universal health coverage, committing to the idea of eventually getting to the holy grail of 6% GDP on health, and never being anywhere close to it, despite new schemes being announced by several governments, including this one. Health expenditure remains at about 1.5% of GDP, far lower than any country at a comparative level of growth. And it is that has got us to the place where we are today. As the speaker before me pointed out, rural health infrastructure, I would actually go so far as to say overall primary health infrastructure remains extremely limited, despite building primary health centers, sub-centers all over the country, doctors, nurses, human resources, all the infrastructure of medical equipment, etc., remains extremely woeful. We knew all of this last year. That was the justification that was given to us as a public for why we had the world's strictest lockdown with only 4 hours of notice. That was why we put our workers through unbelievable forms of tragedy and hardship, as they had to walk home because we couldn't organize ourselves, and we gave very limited amounts of relief. We said we were preparing our health system. We did not pay attention to the fact that we didn't invest hard enough over last year. We got very lucky that we didn't have the kind of extreme virulence of virus as was initially predicted by models. In February, when the budget was announced, and I'll give you some figures here, allocations for the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare in the financial year 22, FY22, budget estimates dropped by 11% from the previous year's revised estimates. National Health Mission, the largest scheme of the ministry, which is largely responsible for rural health infrastructure, the overall allocation was only 4% more than the previous year's revised estimates. 4% in real, which means if you account for inflation, actually it dropped. So overall, we did not allocate to strengthen our health systems this year, which was necessary because regardless of what the status of the pandemic may or may not have been, what we knew over this last year was that we went through as citizens deep hardship in order to be able to prepare ourselves and our health systems. We did not do that. In February, it became quite clear, and Maharashtra was already beginning to raise alarm bells, that the second wave was on its way. Actually, you don't even need science. You just needed to open your eyes and look around at what was happening in other parts of the world. A second wave was never off the table. We did not take genome sequencing properly, seriously. We did not do we did not recognize the reality of what was happening. Instead, we celebrated far too prematurely Indian exceptionalism, our ability to have gotten past the first wave without any trouble. In my considered opinion, we got past the first wave on account of a lot of luck. The reality of what could have hit us was well known. We are now confronting it, but we are confronting it without recognizing the policy fixes we need. It's very clear what we need to do. Even now, it's not too late. The center state issue that was brought up just a little while ago, it's not about politics. It is about the need to have a coordinated mechanism between center and state and across states. One thing that we know about COVID is that it spreads spatially. Not all of India will get COVID in the same virulence at the same time. We knew this from April last year. We can move resources. We can prepare resources. We even actually could use epidemiological data to figure out how better to allocate vaccines in the context of the surge. We need to be able to ensure we have clear treatment protocols, a hospital policy. We need to ensure that we resource our health centers with oxygen concentrators, with medicines, so that nobody should have to go through what the citizens of Delhi have had to go through. There are good best practice models across India. If we really want to genuinely do cooperative federalism, two things we should do immediately. Under the Disaster Management Act, set up an interstate council that brings the chief minister ministers and bureaucrats in conversation with one another that allows for an institutionalized mechanism and not Twitter for state to state and center state issues to be resolved and resources to be moved. Number two, there's a lot of best practice that we have picked up from different states as they are experimenting, evolving, and moving along. Move those best practices to other parts of the country. The BMC has got a lot of publicity in the last few days. It's all over the media. We are all learning about their war room and how effectively they managed it. I would, if I were the government of India, have Mr. Chahal go to various states where we are about to experience a surge and give them advice on how they can set up those war rooms at ward level, at panchayat level, to prevent the kind of harrowing experiences that many citizens in Delhi continue to go through today. There are things we can do. We need coordination. We need trust. Above all, we need political leadership.
Yeah.
We do not have an option. We need to get on with it.
Yes, we don't have an option. We need to get on with it. Charu Pragya, your response to what is being said today on this coordinated work that is required, learning from the best practices from one part and using it in other. You know, so far we've seen that even when one part is dealing with it, we tend to dismiss it, mock it, question it, find politics in it until it actually hits home and hits us as well.
I really appreciate all the suggestions which are made by my co-panelist, and I'm in agreement with her. In fact, not just between states, in one state, between different departments also, we need better coordination, because many a times we see ministries are working in silos, departments are working in silos, and of course, Indian bureaucracy is famous or infamous for the way they function. The red tape that we have been discussing several times to bring about a reform, either the bureaucrat has to be exceptionally experimental, otherwise he's caught up in so much of red tape that the critical period is past us by the time he's ready to take action on a certain thing. And more and more people are catching up with this new way of functioning, which is more impromptu, which is more experimental, and we are seeing successes across the country. And I want to add one more thing, and I was saying this when the Congress spokesperson was talking. I am very clear about one thing. I stand 1000% behind my leader, behind our Prime Minister Modi ji. At the same time, we have to understand useless criticism is not helping any of us. We can fight each other later. Let's fight the pandemic first. To fight the pandemic, we have to identify the problems and we have to find a way of working.
But Charu,
together.
isn't when are we going to cut through the red tape? If you're going to use red tape, okay, if you're going to use red tape as a reason, when are we going to cut through it? It's been 7 years of your government, 8 years almost now of your government being in power.
Can I video get, am I audible, Tanvi?
We seem to have yes, now you are. Go ahead.
Tanvi, am I audible?
I don't think she can hear us, though. Charu, we're going to fix that line with you and come back to you. Dr. Ajay Kumar, I want to ask you this question as well. And the fact is that even the bureaucrats, there is no accountability. Governments, politicians may come and go, but what about the government machinery that exists there? An entire health department in every state and at the center. What about their accountability and whether or not they should have moved faster, quicker between departments to coordinate this? Where is the oxygen? How should it be brought back? Who's going to do that?
Look, Tanvi, that's a slippery slope, because I've been a civil servant myself earlier. The fact is that the political leadership sets the agenda. Mr. Chahal is the Bombay Municipal Commissioner. He's doing a good job. So it's the sheer what the political leadership will decide. If you're going to transfer people for putting up the correct data on record, you're going to have bad civil servants who keep telling the emperor that everything is okay in the world. My only objection and to the BJP spokesperson is not the Prime Minister has to lead from front. Like, there are lots of chief ministers who have done a good job. And I'm saying even political people who are not with us, Kerala, right in the front, even Mr. Uddhav Thackeray, there are lots of people who are taking the bull by his horn and fighting it out. My question is very simple, that like it or not, the majority of this tragedy lies in the door of the government of India for the simple reason, your vaccine policy. She said 50, the states, how much they ordered in the states. Now the vaccine policy, please do a show on vaccine policy. It's the stupidest vaccine policy in the world. That you are asking private hospitals to negotiate with Serum Institute and Bharat Biotech. How can you get vaccine? How can states fight for each other? Everywhere in the world, the central government should have procured and distributed. They are saying that the state asked for 18 and above. Yes, the state asked, but they didn't ask for the central government to not to procure and distribute. And the lies they continue to say, the state has definitely, and the state asked the right things. Whether it's a BJP state or a Congress state, that 18 and above need to have their vaccination done. But this government has said no, private sector, we will give Mr. Poonawalla and Mr. Dr. Ilaji as much as a monopoly. Third, one show you need to do is why can't the Bharat Biotech vaccine be shared, the intellectual property, if ICMR has been responsible for it? We are the largest manufacturer of vaccine in the world with now only 2 guys manufacturing, holding the whole country to ransom. Isn't that ridiculous? And somebody needs to tell this government that we are the largest vaccine manufacturer in the world and we are not allowing them to manufacture vaccine because Modi ji says that. When will that stop? And that is very important because you will never be able to vaccinate with the way Bharat Biotech and Serum Institute are producing the vaccines. You will never be able to vaccinate. Today, 2 lakh 18 to 45 people got vaccinated. Today, 4 lakh people got infected. And nobody is telling this, and they need to understand they're hiding the deaths. And by the way, super spreaderment, ab ki baar Trump sarkar.
Well, the center has gone ahead, Dr. Ajoy Kumar, and even defended this policy in Supreme Court. We'll see how that plays out in the Supreme Court, because the center seems to be very, firm on the fact that this is a good vaccine policy and this is equitable distribution. It's going to help everyone, and it's really the best way ahead based on the advice given to them by the experts. That's the center's response, on the vaccine policy to the Supreme Court. So we are going to pick it up at 9 o'clock. So I'm going to leave that point here for just a bit. But I also have Ajay Kumar, editor for Prabhat Khabar, joining us as well. And Mr. Ajay Kumar, हम ये जो discussion आज कर रहे हैं और अलग-अलग state के expert journalists को भी बुला के ये पूछ रहे हैं कि जो डेथ्स का डेटा अब हमारे पास आ रहा है, जो मौत हो रही हैं लोगों की, वो कितने हद तक सिर्फ कोविड की वजह से और कितने हद तक अब इसलिए हो रही हैं क्योंकि हमारे पास हॉस्पिटल बेड नहीं या स्टाफ नहीं या वेंटिलेटर नहीं या समय पे ऑक्सीजन नहीं, उसकी वजह से पुअर हेल्थ केयर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की वजह से अब छोटे शहरों में और गाँव में हम ज़्यादा डेथ्स की रिपोर्ट्स देख रहे हैं.
स्ट्रक्चर की बात करें तो मुझे लगता है कि मैक्सिमम केसेस जो डेथ की हो रही हैं उसका सबसे बड़ा कारण ये है कि आपके रूरल इलाकों में तो बहुत ही पुअर कंडीशन है. आप देखिए कि पटना में जो पेशेंट का इतना जो दबाव है वो आखिर पेशेंट पटना के नहीं है, पटना से बाहर के लोग काफी संख्या में आ रहे हैं इलाज के लिए. इसका मतलब ये है कि आपके जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट हेडक्वार्टर में या जो हेल्थ फैसिलिटीज होनी चाहिए थी वो डेवलप नहीं हो पाया. आप पटना की बात करें, पिछले साल जो कोविड आया था उसमें 2 ऑक्सीजन प्लांट लगाने की बात थी पटना में, वो अभी तक नहीं लग पाया. अभी 1 सप्ताह पहले वो पीएमसीएच और एनएमसीएच में शुरू हुआ है. इसके पहले ये जो लिक्विड उसका जो आता है वो झारखंड के बोकारो और जमशेदपुर से आता है. तो ये देखना होगा कि आपकी प्रायोरिटी क्या है. जो पॉलिटिकल बॉसेस हैं उनको देखना पड़ेगा कि आखिर वो लोगों के हेल्थ को लेकर कितना कंसर्न रखते हैं. मुझे लगता है कि जो कोविड का सेकेंड वेव आया है इसको लेकर बहुत तैयारी उस तरह से नहीं थी. लोगों को ये आकलन भी नहीं था कि इस तरह की स्थिति होगी. लेकिन सबसे दुखद स्थिति ये है कि जो बेसिक जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर चाहिए उसका भी अभाव रहा है. जी,
इसमें हमने ये रिपोर्ट्स भी देखी हैं अजय जी, जैसे कि एम्बुलेंसेस पड़ी हुई हैं, यूज़ नहीं हो रही हैं, एमपी लैड फंड यूज़ करके लाया गया. एक एग्जांपल हमने देखा कि वो उससे सैंड यहाँ से वहाँ ट्रांसपोर्ट किया जा रहा है. इस तरीके की जो न्यूज़ खबरें आ रही हैं अब स्पेशली स्टेट्स के छोटे शहरों और गाँवों से, उसके बारे में क्या स्टेट का रिस्पांस रहा है? एटलीस्ट इज देयर एन एक्नॉलेजमेंट दैट दिस इज ए प्रॉब्लम? वेंटिलेटर्स पड़े हैं, सब भूल गए, किसी ने ना ट्रेनिंग करवाई ना वो इंस्टॉल करवाए.
ये बिल्कुल उसी उसी जो पूरा पुअर हेल्थ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर जो है उसका ये पार्ट है कि अगर आपके पास वेंटिलेटर पिछले साल आपने भेजा था, उसका इंतजाम नहीं हो पाया, इसलिए नहीं हो पाया कि उसको हैंडल करने वाले लोग आप ट्रेंड नहीं किए। इसलिए आप देखेंगे कि छोटी छोटी जो चीजें हैं जिसकी आप जान बचा सकते हैं, आप जिसको मान लीजिए कि ऑक्सीजन की जरूरत है, उसका ऑक्सीजन लेवल घट रहा है और पटना से कहीं दूसरे यहाँ से 100 किलोमीटर 150 किलोमीटर दूर कोई पेशेंट है, उसको तत्काल जो ऑक्सीजन मिलना चाहिए, शायद इसका भी अभाव रहा, जिसके चलते डेथ यहाँ पर होता रहा लोगों का। और ये जो बात बता रही हैं, जो कह रही हैं, ये ओवरऑल सब जगह की स्थिति रही है ऐसी ही। तो मुझे लगता है कि ऑक्सीजन हो, वेंटिलेटर हो, आईसीयू हो, इसका अभाव रहा और पहले से प्रेडिक्ट नहीं था कि इस तरह से स्थिति होगी और इसको लेकर हम लोगों को अपनी तैयारी करनी होगी। शायद बिल्कुल बेपरवाह रहा, पूरा ब्यूरोक्रेसी रही यहाँ की, जिसके चलते स्थिति खराब रही।
Gee, in fact, now I want to add some statistics to it. Takeaways from the Health and Family Welfare Statistics 2019-2020. Between 2005 and 2019, the total sanctioned doctor positions at primary healthcare centers in rural Chhattisgarh went down by 23%. Instead of improving it, the actual number actually sanctioned doctor positions went down in our primary healthcare sectors in a state like Chhattisgarh, which is largely rural and would need a lot more of these. I'll give you more examples. In Maharashtra, again in the same time, between 2005 and 2019, total doctor positions in primary healthcare sectors went down by 6.5%. I mean, we were just talking about Bihar. In Bihar, there is not even one bed per 10,000 people. In the state of Uttar Pradesh, which is now seeing more and more of these stories now emerge, 59% of the sanctioned doctor positions in primary healthcare sectors in Chhattisgarh were vacant. 29% of these sanctioned positions of doctors in Uttar Pradesh were vacant. So even where we have a plan, even where we know what the policy is, we are not even implementing that. That's the extent. Now, what is it that the governments have to say to defend themselves of not filling up these positions in the last 1 year? Sure, the doctors may be hesitant into going into rural areas, but that's what you have to fix. You created these primary healthcare centers. You created these secondary healthcare centers, the community healthcare centers that have been created. Chhattisgarh, MP, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, even in Maharashtra, the story is the same, perhaps worse in some and better in the others. But we've absolutely not looked at these aspects today, viewers. And because of that, because we ignored it for 70 years, we ignored it in the last 10 years, we've ignored it in the last 1 year despite the pandemic hitting us, people are now dying. People are lying in farmlands, on the highways, outside the hospitals, in gardens and lawns, wherever they find space and are being treated. They're not always being treated by certified doctors, they're being treated by quacks at half the time. Drips are hanging from the trees. There are no beds in hospitals. People are lying on the floors, including family members of elected representatives. And that tells you a lot about India's story. When those with influence cannot get their way through, then it really tells you that the situation is that bad. I'm going to thank all of the panelists for joining us on this conversation. But please keep this in mind. This needs to be that alarm. This needs to be that lesson that we learn and wake up. Our priority cannot be to hide the truth. Our priority cannot be to whitewash the reality. Our priority can't be to simply tom-tom about the great things that we are doing. Our priority and focus has to be to now get up, wake up and acknowledge that for far too long this country has ignored healthcare infrastructure and we are now losing lives because of that. This isn't because COVID turned deadlier. It is because we weren't prepared to handle it even 14 months on. And this is on all state governments, all local administrations and the center. 4,000 deaths every day. It's a horrifying figure. If you don't believe in statistics, look around you. Look at the stories from crematoriums. Look at the stories from outside the hospitals. Look at the stories of how now bodies are being taken care of. Look at the stories around you in your circles. And every second or the third family that you know would have faced a loss in this pandemic. Can we at least not deny the reality anymore and work towards improving our facilities? Thank you for joining us.